Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Game-Based Learning in the World Language Classroom, the why, what, and how, and we're really deeply into the why section today. I'm Madame Sensei. I teach Spanish, French, and Japanese to high schoolers out here in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. If you want to talk to me about this, studio-nemo.com, or the Minecraft Education Ambassadors, or the Minecraft Teachers Lounge, or the Duolingo Educators Network are all places that I hang out with. And I'd love to talk to you, bounce ideas off of you. So we are going to spend the next several episodes looking very deeply at the Hattie effect sizes and how these relate to game-based learning. There's two in the top Hattie effect sizes that don't relate. All the rest of them, yes, that's solidly in our wheelhouse. These are the top things you can do in your class to help your students be successful, as ranked by Dr. John Hattie, and his book is Visible Learning, Routledge 2009. 0.4 is average. Okay, if he's ranked at 0.4, that's average. So we're not going to go down to 0.4 because we don't care about the average stuff. We only care about the stuff that gives you the most bang for the buck. We're going to go down to 0.6, okay? So we're only examining how game-based learning, gamification, or project-based learning or action-oriented approach is going to help you target these areas, okay? So let's just dive right in. Oh, and this is great stuff for you to put in your yearly evaluations, okay? So just go ahead and just plagiarize everything I say. I'm fine with that. We all got to look out for each other, right? All right, number one on the Hattie effect sizes is collective teacher efficacy. This is a Hattie effect size of 1.57. This is basically when your colleagues and you put your heads together and solve a piece of the puzzle that you all have in common. This is why I keep saying, hey, if you want to talk to me, this is where you can reach me. I love to talk to people. I love to bounce ideas off of people. You guys make my games better. So that's why I do so much work in the Duolingo Educators Network and the Minecraft Education Ambassadors. There's wonderful people there. Absolutely wonderful professional learning communities. Now, not only should you be bouncing your ideas off of people who teach the same stuff as you, well, I'm the only French and Japanese teacher in the entire district, okay? There's nobody for me to talk to about those games, but you can better believe I'm talking to my colleagues who teach Spanish. I'm talking to colleagues who teach science. I'm talking to colleagues who teach video production. He's got a lot of good ideas. I talk to colleagues at the junior high. I talk to just anybody I can bounce ideas off of. Oh, our vice principal is great to bounce ideas off of. Anybody, the art teachers, I'm constantly bouncing ideas off of them. So not just in your little bubble, reach outside of your bubble too. All right. And all the games that I'm going to talk to you about throughout the course of this series have all been thoroughly play tested and looked at from every angle by colleagues, not only in my building, but in my district and all over the world through the Duolingo Educators Network and the Minecraft Education Ambassadors. Oh, and 100 million classes I take also. I always talk to people there. All right, self-reported grades is the next most important Hattie effect size, and this has an effect size of 1.33. Now, let me give a caveat. I never, ever, ever ask my students to say, what letter grade would you give yourself? A, B, C, blah, blah, blah. Letter grades are totally meaningless. Letter grades are not going to help you when you're in another country, okay? They're just absolutely not indicative of whether or not a student can order at a restaurant or find their way to a hospital or debate the ending of a movie that they just saw. But I do have my students do a lot of metacognition, and I have my whole, well, not everything, but I'm doing all my metacognition Monday lessons in another playlist if you're interested in the kind of stuff I do with my students every Monday. The games are very easy for the students to self-assess, and I'm not talking about did you win the game, because yeah, that's obvious, but honestly, there's not any strategy to speak of in some of the games I play, like Loteria. There's no strategy. It's like bingo. Blue Kit. There's no strategy in Blue Kit. Okay. Well, I mean, some Blue Kit games, but really, the winner doesn't necessarily have to do with who knew the most. Okay. But if you ask targeted questions like, were there any words you wanted to say but you couldn't remember? Were the people at your table able to understand your pronunciation? How much did you have to look at your cheat sheet? Students are really truthful and they're very reflective about how much support they needed to play the game. So that's the kind of self-reported grades I do. Teacher estimates of achievements has a Hattie effect size of 1.29. And this is basically, how do you think your students are going to do on the game? How much support are they going to need? What kinds of sentence frames do they need? What kind of reminders do they need to stay in the target language? There's lots of different ways you can nudge them to stay in the target language. How fast are you going to remove the scaffolding that you put up? How are you going to remove the scaffolding? How did the students do in the last game you gave them? So these kinds of questions all go into how deeply you believe your students are going to be able to access the game as a way to apply the language. Cognitive task analyses. Oh, this is perfect for us. 1.29. This is all about a student unpacking their thought processes so they can teach the game to they can teach their strategies to other people in their table group or the class, okay? When you're preparing to teach the game to the class, you need to think about the critical decision points. You need to think about the strategies, the priority of the strategies, how they're all linked together. You have to generally map out the whole task of playing the game. This is going to help you decide on your sentence frames, what vocabulary you need to make sure the students have memorized, other supports that you put in. Then the students are going to coach each other because they all want to enjoy the game and they all know that the fun is only as strong as the weakest link. Response to intervention, often abbreviated RTI. This is Hattie effect size 1.29. I have a lot to say about this. While you're working the room, and let me say again, you are always working the room. You don't ever sit down at the computer and grade at this point. You don't ever sit down and read a book at this point. You are working the room, okay? You can easily hear and observe when the students are struggling or when they're not engaged. You can quickly run to the board and say, hey, I'm hearing a lot of you struggling with the negative. Let's go over that again. Or you can run to your conjugation chart hanging on the wall and you can kind of Vanna White some support. Hey, students, look here. Everybody pronounce this for me. Il a, okay? Now say il a. We got to get this solid or the game's gonna, you're gonna fail the game, okay? All right, one more time. All right, back to the game. Or you can bend down next to a student and say, is it he has a blue pencil or he have a blue pencil? Or you can just repeat what they just said with a rising intonation in your voice. He have a blue pencil? Or you just state what it should be and have them repeat. But at any rate, your response to intervention is immediate. I'm going to go into more detail about this. This response to intervention also includes behavioral problems. So I've only ever had like 3 real bad engagement problems in all the years. I've been doing like game-based learning for 10 years, okay? The number one problem is the silent period, which will make less confident students a bit shy when starting a new game. So the scaffolding, the sentence frames, that minimizes it. You balance the team for table groups. It helps immensely. Mostly, though, don't worry about it because playing a game makes everyone happy and loving, and so even the quietest students are going to produce some utterances, or at least they're listening to other people. Okay, then you just have to wait out the student's silent period till the 3rd or 4th time you play the game, and then they're brave enough. I'll talk later in the video series and in my book about a student with social anxiety so high, she was completely mute in the school setting. So I really had to differentiate for her because she absolutely would not talk in any of her classes and had never talked in any of her classes for her whole school career. And I don't know how she got to high school without anybody working with her before, but that's a longer story. I had one student who just refused to have fun. It took 11 months and 3 weeks of just working with her to get her to open up. I had to call home a lot just to check in. Lots and lots and lots of support and encouragement in the classroom, and it finally melted the ice just a teeny bit. And maybe I never fully won her over, but at least she never felt unwelcome in class. She was just kind of too cool for school. I had one student who struggled with OCD and specifically kleptomania. Now, kleptomania is an obsessive compulsive disorder because you're trying to keep order on the world by stealing things, okay? So I never got mad at her, but I did keep an eye on my playing pieces. And frankly, it's because I worked the room all the time that I saw her pocketing 2 Uno cards, okay? And I was like, wait, what's going on here? I recognized OCD for what it is. I recognized kleptomania for being an OCD, and did not turn her into the principal as hey, punish this student for me. It was, hey, I need to get with the counselors right now, and we need a plan for her. But at any rate, working the room is gonna diffuse any of your really large problems. In our next episode, we're going to talk about more Hattie effect sizes. I've broken these down so that I'm trying to keep the videos a manageable amount of time for you. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you next time.